because I'll say this for both the comics and movie. What they do capture, like the thing that I think fans would like about this is how powerful he is, and because he's described as a superhero with the power of was it a million suns, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, a million or billion or gajillion. It's like a lot. It's a lot of suns,
Right.
and he's omnipotent, so he's very powerful. And in this movie, they capture how powerful he is.
Nerd reactor, roll out.
What's up, everybody? John Wynn here, Nerd Reactor. I am with the lovely Spencer, and we're I think we're excited about Thunderbolts, right?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and we've been doing a lot of reading for the comic books. We've been reading Sentry, some parts of New Avengers, and I think for me, I'm trying to catch up on Dark Avengers. Just anything that has like the theme of Thunderbolts and also the theme of just having Sentry as a character in those. And I guess for you, Spencer, out of all the stuff you've read so far, what is the one thing that really caught your eye?
The first Century series that came out in 2000, written by Paul Jenkins and art by Jay Lee. So far, that has been my highlight. As I haven't read Century prior to this. Century is always one of those characters I've known about, and I've known the general idea of Century, but I just never went out of my way because I never had a great reason. Because there's world of comics is so vast of just so
Yeah,
many different things you could read. And so I've never had a great reason to go out of my way to be like, hey, let's check out the Century character until now. And I'm
until
so glad I
Thunderbolts.
did. Yeah, until Thunderbolts. And Sentry is such a great character where I'm personally very excited to see Sentry and Thunderbolts, how he's gonna play out. But that's been my big highlight is the original Sentry story.
Oh yeah. And I guess I want to start off with just my reaction to the Thunderbolts movie. I had a chance to watch it, and so it's coming out this weekend, Friday or Thursday night if you want to watch it early. And so for me, I thought Thunderbolts was a refreshing take on the superhero team movies, and it comprises of a bunch of anti-heroes, and they try to do good while dealing with their messed up past. And I think for me, the heart of the film is Florence Pugh, David Harbour, and Louis Pullman. And I think it has a great combination of just the action, love, trauma, and loss. And the film also explores mental health of a different Marvel heroes. And I don't think a lot of movies like the MCU movies have dealt with that. Maybe a little bit here and there. Uh, like we got a little bit of that in Captain America, First Avenger. Captain America talking about how with his powers, like he can't even get sad because he's trying to drink and he can't get drunk. And so
Right.
I think with this, it really like just hands on just this emotional roller coaster ride for me. I think. Yeah, and I think for you, what's the one thing that the one character or maybe any character for Thunderbolts that has you excited?
The number one character that has me really excited is Sentry, with him being such a complex character, I think,
Yeah,
and all the different comics I've read so far with him, it presents him in such an interesting way. And so I really hope Thunderbolts can correctly capture who the character of Sentry is. And I think if
yeah,
they do, it's a big success on their end to do that. Is I think Sentry is a unique character, and having him there, I think will add a good spin to the compared to previous Marvel movies.
yeah. And I'll say this: I think the movie, in its own MCU way, captures the essence of Century. Like we're not gonna have every single details of his life on there because it's gonna be different. Like what you've seen from the trailer, like Bob shows up and he's like confused, and
Right.
so there are elements that captures like his origin story, but then there are elements where they try to like have this new Bob story where he's hanging out with the Thunderbolts, and it's like just think of this like a parallel world where because in the comic books, we deal with how in Sentry, he's Robert, a regular dude, Robert
Hmm.
Reynolds, and
Right.
he's got a wife. And all of a sudden, he starts thinking like, "Whoa, I think I have this past memory of a different life where I used to be a superhero."
Right.
Yeah, and I think if I don't know if they do a Thunderbolts 2, if they'll ever touch on that, but maybe I don't know. It's gonna be because this is different. It feels already different in terms of like his current path compared to what we see in the Century comic books.
Yeah, I'm interested in just seeing how that'll turn out and seeing if later on if they could potentially like have a Century solo project, depending on how it goes. I don't know. We'll see.
Because I'll say this for both the comics and movie. What they do capture, like the thing that I think fans would like about this is how powerful he is, and because he's described as a superhero with the power of was it a million suns, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, million or billion or gajillion. It's like a lot. It's a lot of suns,
Right.
and he's omnipotent, so he's very powerful. And in this movie, they capture how powerful he is.
That's
So it's like don't be shocked to see his powers on full display here.
that's exciting. Looking forward
Yeah.
to that for sure.
And I guess like yeah, with the other characters, because you have in the movie, the Thunderbolts movie, you have Elena, you have Red Guardian, you have Winter Soldier, you have U.S. Agent, you have Ghost and Taskmaster.
Yeah.
So a lot of that. I'm pretty sure you have some questions for each of the characters, right?
Well, you mentioned earlier that a few of them kind of stood out to you, but like, was there one particular one that like stood out to you most above all?
For me, the one that stood out, like as you mentioned, how you're excited to see Sentry's portrayal. For me,
Mhm.
after watching this movie, I was like, dude, Sentry. It's like before watching it, I didn't read the Sentry comic book. So after watching this movie, I was reading the Sentry 2000 and then Sentry 2005, and so I just wanted to learn more about Sentry because I really like this character of this. Because in the comics, he deals with spoiler alert, the Void, and so it's kind of like his inner demon, and it's very complex. It's like this. The story is all about how if Sentry comes out, that means the Void is out there,
Mm.
and so that's why he's got to just shove that thing down, Void down somewhere, and then also shove himself down as a Sentry
Right.
that he can become regular Bob.
Right.
Yeah. And I think with the movie, it does capture that essence, that tone of just this inner demon and him fighting himself. And I think the movie does it in a way that doesn't do it as like because the comic book version is kind of I feel like it's very comic booky with how the
Sure.
Void is depicted. With he looks like a silhouette of a detective with a hat and a trench coat, but
Yes.
like an
Yeah.
evil detective.
Right.
And I think with the movie, what they've done is I think they did it like in a it fits that world. It's kind of like how if you had to change Thanos in
Right.
Avengers Endgame, Avengers Infinity War, like instead of him being like Oliver Death, like please Death, I'll do anything for you. It's more like
Right.
I've seen this. Worlds have died, and I need to put a stop to it. So that's why I need to have half the world population disappear. So it just feels more cinematic and less
Sure.
cheesy.
Sure. That's awesome. So this is an interesting like ragtag group that we have, right?
Yeah.
Of all the characters we mentioned before, a bunch of different characters, and a lot of these characters have like they come from different corners of the universe that we've seen before. Some of them previously only being on the small screen, and I guess if you what two, three of them appearing from the big screen. But anyway, point is though, is it's an interesting group. Do you think though with them being from all these different corners, or a lot of people have checked out from the MCU at this point, do you think they could
Yeah.
still enjoy watching this movie without maybe necessarily remembering who some of them are, like Ghost or Taskmaster, or your
Because
take on
like
that?
okay. like Taskmaster, right? Like I was not a fan of the portrayal of Taskmaster in Black Widow,
Yeah, me neither.
and I'm like, what what are they doing with this character? And I think for this this movie, it's how do I say this without outright spoiling it? Because I there will be some slight spoilers in this if I were to say it. And the more I talk about it, you'll get a sense of what
Sure.
happens to Taskmaster. For example,
I think
okay,
everybody
the
knows.
the casting news of Avengers Doomsday, all the names, you got Louis Pullman, you have Florence Pugh, you have David Harbour, right? They list all the names. There's like a name missing. I wonder why.
Sure.
So I think if you put the clues together, you'll figure
Yeah.
out, like,
Yeah.
hey, this might happen. So I think the less I say about Taskmaster in this movie, the better. And
Sure.
let's talk about Ghost. Um, I think for me, I wish that Ghost had a little bit more of a screen time and more stuff because it just still feels like it's Florence Pugh, Red Guardian, and Louis Pullman. Like those are the three central figures
Okay.
for the story. Winter Soldier and U.S. Agent, they have their moments, but I think with the Winter Soldier, you have a lot of his moments in the Captain America, First Avengers, Winter Soldier, Civil War, Avengers Endgame, and also Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So you have all those movies,
Mhm.
just dissect and just absorb the Winter Soldier. So I think with this, since I think the director knows that, it's like, all right, let's have these other characters have their moment to shine, and Winter
Right.
Soldier, he'll be there. He's kind of like there is a nod to the Thunderbolts comic where Winter Soldier takes over, and so
Sure.
there's a little bit of that here.
Right. What about this is a big team up. We've seen Guardians of the Galaxy previously.
Yeah,
How would that compare to something like that, or even DC's iterations that we've seen of Suicide Squad?
the Suicide Squad. Yeah, I think with Suicide Squad, right? With because that one they're just straight up villains.
Right.
They're killing no matter what, and they do like in the Suicide Squad they fight to save the day, and also yeah the first Squad movie they're actually saving the day in their
Right.
own way, and I think what makes this one different from that, and also Guardians, because Guardians they're kind of like a ragtag misfit crew, so this I would say is more in line with Guardians because they're not villains
Sure.
like they're kind of like thieves and all that. So you can consider that a villain, but I think they have a heart where they want to do more, and so when they come together, they feel like, hey, this actually fills fills a void in my heart,
Mhm.
and I think that with that, like that captures the comic books for Thunderbolts where they're straight up villains, and the more they do this, the more they fight crime,
Mhm.
the more they're like, you know what, I think I like this. Like most of the team members in the comics. And in this one, it's yeah, a lot of the members they want to do this, they want to help out, and they just different. And I think like Guardians of the Galaxy is in space, and so this
Right.
one's more like grounded, and so we get that version of like a grounded misfit crew, and figuring out how do we work together, and also dealing with our past.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's awesome. I have just a few other things left. We have so for this film consists of a bunch of people that's previously worked on A24 stuff, which is, obviously or known for their artsy sort of films. There,
yeah.
with that present, do you kind of get that vibe at all that like this film feels a little different than the others because of that?
Oh yeah. Like I think at the end, like after watching it, I did a reaction video. Uh I don't think it was on my reaction video, it was on someone else's, and I mentioned like yeah, this kind of feels like an A24 film because the one that pops up to mind recently is like Everything Everywhere All at Once, where the third act goes crazy, right? And then as everything is going crazy, at the heart of it is still like this the relationship between Michelle Yeoh and Stephanie's character, like mother and daughter, and trying to reconnect just to stop the madness. And with this movie, Thunderbolts, it has that craziness, and at the heart of it is like that, like the trio that I mentioned with Elena, Red Guardian, and Bob. It's just that whole thing where people that feel like they don't belong and they come together. It's like, we're important. We're not we're not nothing. We're something. And so that's what I feel about this, where you can create the most weirdest crap, the weirdest shit out there, but still make it relatable.
Okay. So, from what you now know about Thunderbolts, after going back and doing some research a
Yeah.
little bit on them, do you think that this it does a good job of capturing what the essence of Thunderbolts is?
Well, there are many essences, right? Like,
That
but I
that's
think for
true.
me,
Yeah.
the main thing is these these people, these with powers, they come together. They don't think they're heroes, but then all of a sudden, as they're part of this team, the more they help people out, they're like, you know what? I like this. Maybe I want to do more of this. I don't want to go back to a life of darkness. And like for the comic books, they're villains. They're like
Right.
straight up villains. While this one, Elena, her past, she's got a dark past, like being an assassin. Uh, Winter Soldier, also a dark past with being an assassin. U.S. agent, just a past of being not the best Captain America. Like he killed a guy in public.
Right.
And then Ghost, well, she was a villain. And then Taskmaster, she was a villain, but also complicated past. And then you have Bob. So
Then Bob.
I think there's like that whole turning over a new leaf. So I think that's what this movie captures that. And like initially, because in the comic books, spoiler alert, Baron Zemo, it's like, ha,
Right.
it was I all along.
Right.
But there's none of that here. So it's more about
Right.
just these guys coming together and trying to, like, the more they do things together, the more they figure out like, hey, I think this is our calling.
Yeah. I do find it interesting that Thunderbolts, I feel like is a name that's kind of just thrown around the place,
Yeah.
where you see all these different iterations of the team happen, especially in like the last decade or so
Oh
of
yeah.
just seeing them in the comics of there's all these different people that leads the team. Like at one point is Norman Osborn, more recently is Kingpin, now it's Doctor
And hot
Doom.
and
So like
yeah, there was the one where Hawkeye was like leading it too. Yeah.
yeah, so their point is there's a bunch of different iterations, and so it's kind of interesting to where I kind of find it personally hard to be like what exactly is Thunderbolt sometimes. So I think it's cool that it's trying to make it its own,
Yeah.
and some of the more recent comics that's come out, I think it's trying to reflect more of like what this movie's going for a little bit.
Oh yeah, because okay, let's say Guardians, right? Like how it first started is different from like the first movie. So it's kind of like
Hmm.
taking like some bits and pieces of everything. Because
Right.
originally Guardians, what Yondu? Yondu's the guy.
Yondu's like the only one there in that original one.
Yeah.
There's a
And
bunch
so
of
that
people there.
yeah, so there's like some nods here and there with that Guardians of the Galaxy, and I think with this one they have their own take, their own version, but like I think the essence of the team is still there of just these bunch of
Sure.
misfits and just
Okay.
actually enjoying helping out people.
Awesome. All right, last question I have is rumor has it this movie connects to Doomsday, which, obviously we know that they're going to be in Doomsday.
Yeah.
But does this movie get you more excited for Doomsday?
I will say that this movie will get you excited for yeah, the possibilities of Doomsday, but also for Fantastic Four.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And Doomsday, because I feel like I'm trying to think of like what's the possibilities of these characters. I was gonna say Thundercats, but Thunderbolts, Thunderbolts with the X-Men, with the Avengers.
Sure.
Because remember, you still have Sam, right?
Hmm.
At the
Right.
end of A New World, he's gonna start the Avengers.
Hmm.
And so what is all these and then also, you're gonna have the Fantastic Four. So like you have four different teams coming together. That's a lot of teams.
Yeah, it is.
And what's going to happen?
Yeah, it's going to be
Oh,
interesting to
boy.
see how that goes.
And I
Quite the
think,
wild ride it'll be.
yeah, the only concern I have is like the build up, right? Because with the Thanos, the Infinity Saga, you have a lot of movies to build this up, and here it feels like it's all disconnected because the multiverse feels disconnected because everyone's having their own worlds, but somehow you gotta
Yeah.
put them all together. And how are they gonna work together to stop a bigger threat without them knowing each other? It's like, oh, I'm from a different universe. I'm from a different team.
Yeah,
Because the
we'll
X-Men,
see.
they're from a different universe.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just so many loose ends. Like it's going to be hard to, I think, properly make everything come together. One thing that the casting announcement that we have, even despite not having a bunch of names here that I think we'll see, it definitely tells me though that they're trying to wrap up as many loose ends as they can, or at least pick up on those loose ends.
Yeah.
With Doomsday, for example, we're seeing Namor back, Shang-Chi back, and so we'll see where it all goes.
Yeah, yeah, we have Shang-Chi and Namor too. Namor. And
Namor, right?
yeah, Namor and his crew from I forgot how to
Wakanda
say his
forever. Oh,
from
the
his because not the
right.
Atlanteans because it's like their
Yeah, they
own world
changed it
there. They
there.
changed it.
I like
And
that
so
they did
that,
that, but yeah.
yeah, so they have that too. So that's like all that crammed into like a movie and maybe, Secret Wars. So I'm thinking, I think the Russos, they've done a great job with Infinity War and Endgame. And I think if you don't have all those Thanos stuff if you don't watch all those and you just watch Infinity War by itself, I think you still get a good Thanos story.
Hmm.
So I think with this one, we might get a good Doctor Doom story. Like focus on him and how he's affecting everyone else, and everyone gets their moment to shine. Because Infinity War, you still have Guardians; they have their moment to shine. You got Spider-Man time to shine, little Iron Man, Doctor Strange. Um, and then the other Endgame, that's when you focus on like the core Avengers with Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man coming together fighting Thanos. So
Hmm.
I think the Russos, I'm having hope for them. Like they haven't done wrong in the MCU because all their
Indeed.
MCU stuff, it's been
But
great.
yeah.
The stuff outside of it, can't say much.
Yeah. Quite the interesting career that they have. So we'll see how it turns out.
Yeah. And I think with this Thunderbolts, they do the asterisk, right? It's
Oh yes.
yeah, that there's a reason why Kevin Feige is always like talking about that asterisk. And so what do you think that asterisk means?
I genuinely have like no idea. Because I just find it so weird. And obviously that's like their version of I think trying to get people like more excited about like this movie of like, hey, there's this like asterisk thing. What does that mean?
Yeah.
And so I I like the theory of it trying to be like the team turns into something else at the end, like say Dark Avengers by the end of it or something. And so I like that theory. I don't know if it's what they're going to do. I genuinely have no idea, but of all the theories I've heard, at least that's the one that I like the most. Even
So
though
you
it's
read
kind
a
of
lot of
hard to
theories.
see. Well, not a lot, but that's the one that stood out to me though. Is I like the idea of them trying to do a Dark Avengers of sorts.
Yeah.
I think you easily at least have a few of them there that would fit within a Dark Avengers team. But then also to do that, I think you need some other members there to really make it a Dark Avengers and not Thunderbolts per se.
Yeah.
And so, but we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, because you'll find out in 2 days, right? So
Very shortly.
yeah, it's craziness. Like, and I definitely want to hear your thoughts after that because it's I feel like it's crazy because before watching this Thunderbolts, like well Thunderbolts, who wants to watch this? But it's kind of like the same thing as Guardians of the Galaxy, where when that came out,
Hmm.
like who's the Guardians? But since it's
Hmm.
Marvel, we'll check it out. So I think this
Hmm.
has that same feeling of this uncertainty of like a new team that a lot of people don't know about, and for them to check it out and they're like, you know what, like I really enjoy like this team, these characters, and for me. I really enjoyed this movie, and there are some critics of the movie because I've talked to some people after the movie,
Sure.
and I feel like there's a good chunk majority that likes it, but then there's a few that wish that there was more screen time for different characters, for them
Sure.
to grow, for and then others just feel like it's like I don't care about any of these
Yeah.
characters. So I was like, wow, it's like
Yeah.
it's very different. And the Rotten Tomatoes, it's out now. It's like currently I think 88%, so that's pretty high. And I'm curious to see what the general public is going to think once it comes out, because I feel like this is a different type of movie. Because you have your the typical MCU movie, like at the first the three acts of a character's introduction, and then they fight the third act. They fight the main bad guy, and I feel like this one it's still similar, but it's different in a way that it's not your typical of whatever you think it would be, like how I mentioned the A24 stuff before. So,
Right.
and I think with that, I don't know if there's anything else you want to talk about Thunderbolts.
Well, just as you mentioned earlier, with the audience discovering a smaller team that has definitely been relevant and seeing the renaissance that it's caused with Guardians, when Guardians came out, that was something special to me of where I really got into reading a bit of Guardian stuff. And because of the Guardians movie and its success, Guardians has become a prominent team in the Marvel comics since then.
Yeah.
And Thunderbolts is, I mean, of course, prior to this movie, they've been prominent in their own ways, coming and going. And so, but point of where I'm just going with that is I'm happy to see uh, this smaller team brought up so more people can find out more about some of these different smaller characters and more of these characters and this team in general. And so, like
Yeah.
with you going back and looking into a bunch of these stories, lots of bigger story or lots of stories that's known to be really good and whatnot. I just hope it'll have a similar effect uh, with some of the other people that goes to watch it. And so,
Yeah, yeah. I hope everyone else feels the same way too, because I think with them announcing the cast for Doomsday, like
mhm.
pretty ballsy to announce like, hey, these are going to be the Thunderbolts that's going to be in
Mhm.
Doomsday. So that means
Yeah.
they're confident enough that Doomsday, I mean, Thunderbolts going to be a success with the people, that they're going to enjoy these characters and they want to see more of it. Because imagine if, like, for example, you have the Marvels, right? Like
Mhm.
people before that, people were thinking, "Oh, is Captain Marvel is she gonna head the next evolution of the Avengers?"
Yeah.
And I think with how like everything's split on Captain Marvel, especially with the Marvels coming out, I feel like it's because I was not a fan of that movie, but I feel like a lot of people were split on that movie,
Mhm.
and I don't think there was excitement because that also the box office for that one was not great.
All right.
And so, what if the box office for this one's not great, but I still think it's a very solid flick, a very emotional flick. And I think even with, let's say if it does not make a lot of money, I think these characters are important enough to be able to be a part of Doomsday and the story because the you can turn things around. Like
Yeah.
Infinity, not Infinity War, but Endgame. Remember when they're like time traveling back and Thor gets to visit his mom, and that whole thing was part of
Dark
like
World,
Dark
right?
World, where
Yeah.
Dark World was not everyone's favorite cup of tea,
It's
but
not it.
the Russos and the writers were able to take that story and elevate it and make it better so that when uh you do care about this story, you care about the past, and I think with the Russos they can elevate this even more.
Awesome.
But yeah, I think with that, I don't know, like in closing, other than that, yeah, I really enjoyed my time watching Thunderbolts. I already watched it twice, and
Wow.
yeah, because I watched it yesterday and last week, and so I couldn't wait to watch it again, and I'll probably watch it again with the crowd. Because no, actually, I did watch it with the crowd, with the fans, because the first time I watched it was at the fan screening.
Oh.
Yeah, so that was with like all the fans, and they got excited, and the typical like end credit scenes. Like they got excited for that one too. And so I
Hmm.
think I'll talk about the end credit scenes vaguely, vaguely. Like there's two. There are two end credit scenes, and the first one we see is more like a comedic end credit scene. It doesn't really tie into anything, but then the
Mhm.
last end credit scene ties into something. I'm not going to say what it is, but I think if you rewatch this, our discussion about the Thunderbolts, you'll get a hint. You'll get a hint. You get a hint on a lot of things. There's a lot of little Easter eggs here and there where if you
Sure.
put them all together, you'll figure things out. And I think with that, yeah, Thunderbolts. Yeah, let us know what your thoughts on the Thunderbolts is when it comes out in the comments. And Spencer, I don't know if you have any last words you want to say.
Well, thank you for having me on. It was a joy to be here and talk about it.
Oh yeah, you can check out Spencer at the Dingus Den. You can
Yes.
Google it, the Dingus Den. You'll see it
Us
on
at Dingiston on
YouTube.
YouTube. I talk about a bunch of different comic stuff, and we have a Thunderbolts thing that'll be out or just about out by the time this drops. So be sure to check that out, where we go deeper into specific comics that influence what the Thunderbolts movie, as it takes a bunch of different things cherry picking into this movie.
Yeah, and I think for me, the thing that will be like that curiosity side of things, how are they going to pull off Sentry in this movie? Because the other characters we've seen them in one iteration or another, like yeah, Elena, we've seen her in previous movies, so you know what to expect with Elena, Red Guardian, Ghost, uh, U.S. Agent, Winter Soldier. But with Sentry, he's like an unknown. So it's like,
Mhm.
how are they going to portray him here? And will they have it where he's likable, engaging, and I feel like they deliver on that.
That's awesome.
And yeah, so with that, that is it, and we'll see you guys next time.